if the 50s belong to Dedan Kimathi, and maybe in terms of opposition politics, you come the 60s, maybe that belonged to Kenyatta, and you come to the 70s, if that belonged to J.M. Kariuki, and Jaramogi, then Jaramogi takes us the 80s. I think, historically speaking, Paul Muite should claim ownership or having played the greatest role in 1990s on matters dealing with doing a build-up towards reforming the Constitution. At the time, he was the main person we had. This tooth was broken by a pistol bat. Somebody was trying to get at my throat, so I took it. The government had directed that anywhere we are found, we should just be arrested, whatever the reason. Now that's what happened. And Paul Muite always stepped forward for us, plus his colleagues in the law profession. But he was particularly significant because he always bailed us out. In fact, he bailed us out. We had so many cases. At one stage, he told us, you guys, you know what? I'm exhausting my strength as in terms of logbooks and title deeds to try and get you out of cells. And after that beating, Richard Leakey got shaken. He used to write our statements. But from that time on, the guy used to write statements. Then when we read it, we say, what have you written? Yes, my name is WAFULA BUKE. I come from a background of student activism. I was the chairman of SONU in 1987. I lasted only 9 days in office because at that time we were trying to fight for change, led by Jaramogi. And same time we had the Kenya uprising. Kenya is an underground movement. So around that time, I got myself involved in student politics, got elected as chairman, and then I was jailed after 9 days. Having gone through Nyayo House and undergoing what everyone has gone through, knows about. 14 days, I was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. So when I came out, of course, there was an atmosphere of some kind of political democracy where multipartyism was in place, and that's how I found myself again engaging in politics. Yeah.
So when did you join Safina Party, and which year was it?
Yes, Safina Party for me came at a very strategic time, a very interesting period, because I was an associate of Ford Kenya. We had fought and managed to secure the victory of a member of parliament called Saulo Bosolo in Muite, a by-election. And I was arrested thereafter when a guerrilla movement called Fera struck Bungoma, and some 2 policemen were killed and guns were taken away. So they suspected me to be one of those people who were involved. So they arrested me and kept me in custody, of course, undergoing torture for 49 days. In fact, that's how this tooth was broken by a pistol bat. Somebody was trying to get at my throat, so I took a dive. So when I came out, I was shocked to find that the Golden Bag thing had blown up. And the leader I was working with, who is the leadership of Fort Kenya, were the ones who were taking the flag for compromising. So I met the elected member of parliament. He told me how the whole thing had happened. A lot of money, about some millions, were given to the leadership of Fort Kenya, and he said he had been given 280, and he had added something and bought a car. Then he says another leader was given 2.5, another leader was given 1.5, another one was given 1.8. Basically, they were all compromised. So he asked me that the Fort Kenya leadership had been very interested in me. If I go there, I'll also be given money. So that time I had been beaten, we had gone a lot of suffering, so I felt so frustrated. So as I was going through this, somebody told me about Safina. That was Gitao Mwara. And then I was sent to Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw at the time was the person who was assessing the ideological quality of recruits to the neck. So he interrogated me. We had a long chat in 6-8 Hotel. And he presented a recommendation to Paul Muite, and that's how I got admitted into Safina as an EC member, as a member of the steering team at the national level. Yeah, that was 1995, I think.
What for you, what was the ideology and the background of the Safina party at that time?
You see, Safina was, sorry about that. Safina was let me just switch off this. Safina was, can be described as a collection of liberal Democrats and social Democrats, I would say. It was a mixture of those two. I represented the left at that time, being a person from the socialist background, and we had other liberal and social democratic elements. I would think that generally we could be described to have been sympathetic to the social democratic philosophy of governance. Yes.
And just tell us, you mentioned that you mentioned that immediately you joined Safina party, you had just come out of jail. How was the political and democratic space at that time of you joining Safina, and considering you just come out of detention?
You see, at the time, I must say that Jaramogi had just died, and the new leadership was trying to get its footing. And I must say that the leader of Ford Kenya was really a popular person at that time, leading a team of very brilliant people like Paul Muite and many others. So, but after the Goldenberg, scandal, it created a reason for them to split up. And I want to think that Safina starts emerging as a party against a background of lack of integrity in the leadership of the opposition led by Omala Kijana.
Okay, then any memorable moments you remember of your membership of Safina, and how the party itself, obviously being in the early years of the democratization of the space in Kenya, obviously in the 90s, just slightly, that is above 1992, after the advent of multipartyism. How was any memorable moments of you in Safina party?
Yes, Safina had a special quality, and I think this quality is derived from Paul Muite's vision, because the party embraced young people. If it was to be pushed to now, I would say we were the GNC of that time, because we had student leaders like Kabando, we had Justus Muchoke, we had Atieno Walker, we had many former student leaders. So most in Taiwan Nguraru, for example, the late, was one of our notable personalities. And what is significant is Paul Muite's commitment, I must say that, because he realized we were all people without addresses and gave us an income. We all had some salary. So as we worked for the party, we still had some salary. That I found was very, very okay. And the other notable thing I must bring out is we were arrested so many times. In fact, it appeared like the government had directed that anywhere we are found, we should just be arrested, whatever the reason. Now that's what happened. And Paul Muite always stepped forward for us, plus his colleagues in the law profession. But he was particularly significant because he always gave us, bailed us out. In fact, he bailed us out. We had so many cases. At one stage, he told us, you guys, you know what? I'm exhausting my strength as in terms of logbooks and title deeds to try and get you out of cells. So next time you're arrested, you guys, be aware that you have to find another solution. And truly, when you are arrested again in Taiwan Nguraru, in Ngundune, we had to look for a relative of Ntayo Nguraru for us to be freed from custody, being accused of inciting people or something like that. Yeah. And another interesting thing I can point at is how the state was so malicious. Apart from arresting us recklessly, they also gave us very funny charges. I remember when we went to Kenyatta University, the state charged us with inciting the police to riot. Now that, I don't know whether that has ever been heard anywhere. How do you incite the police to riot? Then they also arrested us in Nairobi University and accused us of trespass. And they're accusing us of trespass in a case in which we have gone to a public space called the university. So I see that malice on the part of the state was also worth noting. Then finally, I think that Richard Leakey, the violence that was meted on Richard Leakey was a game changer for us. And I think Safina never recovered from that point on. There was a function we had in Nakuru, and the state organized goons that whipped up Richard Leakey so much. I think that, in fact, the picture of whip marks on his back is a picture that should be kept in Safina to remember both a turning point and the pain that was inflicted on a member. And after that beating, Richard Leakey got shaken. He used to write our statements. But from that time on, the guy used to write statements. Then when we read it, we say, "What have you written?" And I remember Farah Maalim was among those who said, "If that's the case, please just keep it off." So we kept having problems with him because he writes liberal things when we are basically doing tough criticisms. So that beating slowly moved the party away from its radical stance and anti-government to some degree of cooperation, and finally the co-option of Richard Leakey as an expert in the Kanu government, something which made us lose some bonga points from the people, I think. Yes.
Any other particular worst memories of you, maybe during your detention time? I know those times the special branch were very ruthless, the security apparatus. Any memories?
No, well, as a person who has been arrested too many times, I was thinking about it the other day, and I think I've been arrested about 24 times. Yeah. You want to gloss over those things that you went through. But one of those things is just violence, you know. I remember when we were arrested with Kibwana at the university with Kabando. You know, they dragged us to Central Police Station, and a guy hit me, I fell down and put his boot on my head against the cement. That's one which I thought he had gone too far. So it's just those kind of violence that I can say maybe a bit over an irritant. Yeah.
What do you think are the best ideals or ideologies that have kept the Safina party for 30 years and still it's going strong? What are these unique things that we have seen parties come and go, but Safina party has remained?
It does seem to me that just like Safina was born as a protest against acts of corruption and co-option by patriotic leaders into the mainstream, government, I think that corruption stands out as a theme that Safina has really stood for. And Paul Muite, Safina also came up with, even when you look at where it is right now, led by, the current leadership, Willis Atieno, Paul Muite, and I think Jimmy Wanjigi, you can see they're the ones who know exactly what's going on matters corruption. So I must say that that's one thing that runs through the life of the party. The other point which I think I should bring out is if the 50s belong to Dedan Kimathi, and maybe in terms of opposition politics, you come the 60s, maybe that belonged to Kenyatta, and you come to the 70s, if that belonged to J.M. Kariuki, and Jaramogi, then Jaramogi takes us the 80s. I think, historically speaking, Paul Muite should claim ownership or having played the greatest role in 1990s on matters dealing with doing a build-up towards reforming the Constitution. At the time, he was the main person we had. And in the function you held, if you wanted some clout, he was always willing. and ready to spend his resources towards helping us to reach where we reached. The NCC was quite pivotal. In terms of political prominence, he stood out as the main person. And I want to give him credit for helping us really lay the foundation for the making of the new constitution. Yeah.
Just tell us, how was it to form a party such as Safina that was pro-democracy at a time when there was so much government stifling dissent, and the government of the day was basically intolerant?
You see, I don't know whether I'm competent to answer the question, but at least we were just coming out of a one-party system, and the government was learning its ropes, so I guess that's why they could not stop us, at least from being registered. But they made it difficult for us to operate. Yeah.
What can you say about the party moving forward? We are seeing the political dynamics are changing. I think some of the ideals, some of the methods remain the same, but we are even seeing from, for example, this generation, there is the use of the internet. I know you're an ardent user of the internet yourself. I've seen you make quite some posts, comment on topical issues on Facebook. But going forward, how do you see the situation going like?
I think that there's a new culture. There's a new culture, political culture, that has emerged. The culture of parties coming up into existence for purpose of elections, then they disappear. And that has happened so much. And I think that what Safina can do for the political legacy of our country and our times as a generation of political actors is to at least keep alive. Keep alive and continue practicing what the recruiters of Safina did in the 90s, which is not just admitting anybody because of his money or anything, but admitting that person because of the ideological inclination of that particular person. For me, that's something that is special and should be retained, and is at the center of the collapsing of most of these political parties that we've had in the past. Yeah.
I know your generation has been very instrumental in transforming, in helping or advocating for change in this country. Yeah. And we have also seen, for example, we have fruits like the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which you would say basically are fruits not of 1 or 2 years or 2 people, but basically of a generation and a collection of people who were political activists at your time. Do you think your role in advocating for civil rights and activities as a party has been appreciated enough, or there are things you feel that maybe you could have missed out and you would want that done?
You see, we have a very serious problem in this country, and that problem is just a minute. The problem we have in our country since independence is that every struggle, anytime the fruits of the struggle come into existence, the person who presides over that particular process becomes the enemy. The individuals who opposed whatever is being fought for are the ones who normally take over. And because from those days, come to Jomo Kenyatta, well, an anti-reform person, took over the leadership of this country. Come multi-party politics. After that, it was Moi's vice president who took over. After that, you see Jomo Kenyatta's son and Ruto taking over. So we've been moving on. And every reform effort we come up with is finally taken over by those who opposed it. So we have a bad tradition. I don't know whether there's a curse, but I think that there is need for there to be a break so that we can have change, which also is reflected in the type of leadership we have in office. Not just anybody who has won an election, but a person who was part and parcel of those who conceptualized the vision that has led to those changes that have taken place. Yeah. Okay. And since independence, one thing is true. We have never had anybody, any president who has taken over power, anybody who has taken over power and comes from the tradition of struggle for change. Yes.
From your role in the participation of the 1997 and the 2002 elections that actually flipped the dynamics of the politics of Kenya, we saw an end of the 24-year Moi rule. And going forward, what do you think could you, and as a member of Safina, try to instill to the newer generation to influence the elections of that are coming forward? Sorry, as one of the founder members and an active political voice in this country, what do you think you would help to influence this generation in the roles that are coming in the coming 2027 elections?
I think political parties have just to do what the team that formed Safina did, which is giving young people, mainstream positions of influence, so that they can at least introduce another worldview to what we have been going through. It is true, we may also be patriotic, but I think so far it will be good for them to give the younger generation a chance to also participate in processing solutions to national problems. Yeah.
Okay. With Safina Party obviously preparing for the 2027 election with possibly Jimmy Wanjigi as its flag bearer, what do you think they could do differently from what you've learned in the 90s and from what is happening right now?
You see, there's something I have noted about the dominance of Comrade Raila Odinga in presidential elections. Now that he's kind of shifted base and is working the establishment, it has given us a chance to understand the limitations of the current leaders who are yet to run for presidency. I think they do not know the science of establishing themselves up the grassroots. Most of our leaders are so media-based, and a headline is mileage enough, appearance on media is good enough, but I think they have to try and build structures up to the grassroots. And if you talk to most of the presidential candidates I've done, I mean, Nairobi, I talked to them, just about all of them, you'll find him heading to a place and he doesn't know anybody except that one person or something like that. So I think the science of mobilization needs to be upscaled to match the skills of people like Moi, who was present in every village, and the skills of Raila Odinga also, was done his part in showing that he can actually shake the country from the base. So I see them really improving on the technical capacity in running a presidential campaign. Then the other thing is that there's now a new, we are unable to really open up to another generation. Most caucuses exclude the younger generation. And when you listen to this younger generation on TV, those fellows are as brilliant, if not better, than most of these other people. So the senior generation that has the privilege of having resources should be able to open up and allow another generation to also take part in shaping the future. I think the world is changing, whereby being old may not necessarily mean you know enough, because people can get information from the internet. So younger people can even know more than the old people. So this dynamic has to be introduced in the political processes. And if there's anything we learned from the GNC, is that we tried, we didn't succeed. They tried, they succeeded in terms of shaking the government to its core. So that must be reflected in the coming election. It will be safe for Safina also to even consider having a GNC as a presidential candidate, or even a running mate, one of those high positions in government.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. WAFULA BUKE, for your time. We appreciate your presence here.
Okay, thank you.